Before we get started, spoiler alert. I'm gonna spoil this movie, and I'm probably gonna spoil all of Quentin Tarantino's films, so you've been warned. And just for context, I love Quentin Tarantino. I think he's one of the top 5 best directors of all time. I love Pulp Fiction, love Reservoir Dogs. I think Kill Bill is his masterpiece. Django Unchained was amazing. Even his weaker movies like Jackie Brown, I had so much hype for this Once Upon a Time in Hollywood movie because Tarantino is one of the few filmmakers left doing something actually original. His movies aren't sequels or remakes or spin-offs or reboots or reimaginings, and the fact that this is his second to last one was really bringing me down, and I had high hopes for it. So finally I go watch it, and to my shock and amazement, I thought it sucked because it was just such a boring movie, and people, the critics, the fans are praising it, and I feel like I'm left out because I'm pretty much gonna boil it down to I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I did not understand this movie. I kept waiting for something to happen, something to develop, and nothing. And people keep saying, well, that's the movie. Some movies don't need to have plot. Well, I'm sorry, that's just not how I watch movies. That's not how I watch Quentin Tarantino movies. I actually like things to happen. I actually like to be engaged, whether it's a plot, at least like Pulp Fiction with the MacGuffin, the suitcase. And this movie had none of that, and a lot of people are saying that was the point, and I was worried right off the bat because the very first scene was really boring, the pacing was all off, and I kept thinking to myself, is this scene gonna set the tone, set the rhythm for the entire movie? And yes, unfortunately I was right. The scene just seemed to go on forever. I wasn't engaged in the dialogue. It kept cutting away to movies and shows within the movie with Leo DiCaprio in it, and I kept thinking that it was gonna cut to a different scene, but then it went right back to the bar scene of them talking. It just went on forever, and it's not at all like past Quentin Tarantino dialogue scenes. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio's relationship didn't seem believable to me in this movie. Brad Pitt is just there to be Leo's servant for the entire movie. He doesn't want anything, he's got no ambitions, he's just there to drive him around and be support. And it just seems so unrealistic to me. There is just entirely too many scenes in this movie that are so self-indulgent, like Brad Pitt just driving around this 1960s Los Angeles for 5 minutes or probably more. Has Tarantino's ego really reached this level where he thinks he can just point the camera at anything and just film nothing essentially and it's gonna be brilliant? The scenes of the dog feeding, which just went on forever and were really boring. And I know what you must be thinking right now. Tarantino does this type of stuff all the time, and yes, he does. Difference is that back then when he did it, he would actually have characters talking or developing the plot. Like in Django Unchained, for example, when the doctor is serving some beers and we actually see the entire process and all the cutaways of him making beers for himself and Django, but at least in that scene, things are actually happening and being developed. Or the time when Bill is making some peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but once again, he's actually having some interesting dialogue. Also, with the feet, we get it, man. You like feet. You have a foot fetish. You need to stop with this. I feel like the man has just become a meme of himself at this point. The ego is too big, and it really shows with this movie. What's with all the pointless characters? For example, the hippie chick. Cliff Caesar not once, not twice, but 3 times. Are we building up to something? Is there gonna be any tension there? No, she's just there for no reason. He drops her off at the ranch. There's actually a tense scene, finally, where you think, oh, something's about to go down here, but no, it was all just pointless. And you know what? For a minute here, I'm gonna be fair to the movie because I think I may not be the target demographic for this movie. This is clearly a movie about Tarantino's childhood, about the movies he watched, the songs he listened to, the TV shows he watched. And as a 30-year-old man, I can't really relate to that. Like, sure, I recognize some things. I know about the Green Hornet. I never watched the Green Hornet, but I did watch other Bruce Lee movies. There's a lot of obscure TV shows and movies and posters in the background and references that honestly I like things from all decades, but I'm not a hardcore 1960s aficionado. I was not a fan at all of what I thought was experimental stuff, like the scene with Timothy Olyphant, where they're doing a movie within a movie, but it feels like it's the actual movie, but then he's messing up his lines and going, cut, wait, no, let's keep going, let me do another take of that. I forgot my line. That was just really weird to me. Hey, aren't you the guy that almost got the part in The Great Escape, but he didn't get the part in The Great Escape? And then we have this Forrest Gump style scene of Leo DiCaprio superimposed in the actual Great Escape movie. And once again, I feel like that's just there for the sake of being there, for, hey, look what we can do. Wouldn't it be fun to reimagine this movie with Leo DiCaprio in it? And look at the effect. I didn't get it. Margot Robbie actually watching the real Sharon Tate at the movies. What was the point of her character anyways? Why is she in the movie? Why is Sharon Tate even in this film? I don't get it. She barely talks. There's nothing to her in this film, but whatever, that's a different thing. That's a different point altogether. But that was another weird thing for me, that you have an actual actress, Margot Robbie, going to watch the real life Sharon Tate at the movie theaters. Wouldn't it have been better to film and actually use Margot Robbie to recreate Sharon Tate scenes or Sharon Tate movies, and then have Margot Robbie go see herself recreate it? I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a scene at the Playboy Mansion with Steve McQueen, but Steve McQueen's there to give us some really lazy exposition of things we already know anyways. Like, hey, look, that's Roman Polanski, and that's Sharon Tate. And it was so frustrating to me watching all this. Like, what is the point of having all these celebrities, all these famous actors, when anyone who isn't Brad Pitt or Leo DiCaprio is hardly in this movie? Movie would have probably been more immersive that way, as opposed to just going, hey, look, there's Al Pacino. Hey, look, there's Luke Perry. Oh, it's Timothy Olyphant, because I can't remember their character's name, and you can't either. Come on. Let's talk about the Bruce Lee scene. It's no wonder to me that the Bruce Lee estate is mad at this movie, because Tarantino completely made Bruce Lee look like an asshole. The fact that Brad Pitt kicks his ass is just I have no words for that. If people on a Hollywood set see you kick Bruce Lee's ass, you would think that you would be the next Bruce Lee. And well, yes, I was surprised with the subverted expectations ending. I thought for 1 second that he actually was gonna go through with showing the Sharon Tate murder, or maybe, if that was too much in bad taste, it would have been implied or off camera. But come on, I'm so naive. What was I thinking? Of course he was going to do that. So we have a movie that deals with the Charles Manson stuff. Charles Manson is in the movie for 2 seconds. It's a dark subject matter. I would expect a somewhat serious film about it, or have somewhat serious moments when dealing with that subject matter. But instead we get a random voiceover of Kurt Russell. For some reason, again, why is he doing the voiceover for that scene? It just blows my mind. It just feels so weird and out of place. And then we get this, awful slapstick comedy moment of them burning alive and beating the crap out of the Manson members. It didn't work for me. I'm sorry, people in the theaters, in my theaters, they were laughing it up and having a great time, but I just didn't get it. Because they go out of their way to show that one of them, Uma Thurman's daughter, backs out at the last minute, and in the context of the movie, these characters haven't done anything horrible yet. They might do it. Sure, we know that the real life people did a brutal murder, but in the movie they haven't done anything, so we're just cheering the murder of these people for really no reason. The closest thing this movie has to an arc is Leo DiCaprio using that flamethrower at the end, which I thought was stupid too. Girl, if you see someone about to spray some fire on you, as soon as you feel the fire, just go under the water. Maybe it wouldn't work, sure, but that would be a realistic reaction to it, and that took me out of it too. Like, she's just standing there in the pool getting burned alive. Okay. I guess Leo's character arc is that he was afraid to use the flamethrower in the first act of the movie, but in the third act he's not afraid to use it. And Tarantino lampshades this moment too by having Leo say, "Oh wow, the flamethrower still works." Oh no, but he does have a character arc, because at the end of it he meets Sharon Tate and gets invited to her place, and he might have a future healthy movie career now as opposed to making shitty Italian movies. Well, that's implied, so we never know. Maybe he doesn't. All I get out of this movie is that they start washed up in the beginning and they end washed up in the end of the movie. So there's been no arc, no character development here. Yeah, the acting is good. I'm convinced Leo is gonna get an Oscar nomination for this movie, and he might win an Oscar for this movie. The cinematography, everything is on point, but that's not good enough for me. I'm just not superficial that way. I just want a good story, and this movie has a lack of it. And also, one more thing before I end this. The acid cigarette, that's just really dumb. That is so dumb, I'm amazed it's in the movie. You can't smoke an acid cigarette. It's not possible. It wouldn't last. As soon as you light it up, the effect is gone. How did this get past anyone? Shouldn't Brad Pitt, isn't he like a pothead? Shouldn't he know a thing or two about this stuff? Didn't anyone on set tell Tarantino? Didn't anyone notice? Oh, whatever. I've complained enough about this movie. I didn't like it. Thought it was boring. I hope Tarantino's last movie is much better than this and actually has a story and some plot points and things happening in it, not just a homage of his childhood.